couple minutes early. I figured I'd just pop in and say hi since YouTube was actually working properly tonight. So I am here a couple minutes early. I'm not going to start my topic chat for a couple minutes, but I thought I would give you guys a couple minutes actually this time to stop in. If you are just joining me, let me know where you found out about my live chat tonight. If you are joining me regularly, welcome. For those of you that are new, welcome back. Hey, Inga. So I'm not going to share what I call the meat and potatoes of my live video until 5 o'clock, but I thought I would join a couple minutes earlier because YouTube was actually working. I like to go live horizontal. That way you can see more of my background, my garden, which is why I'm here. And sometimes when I go live, even though I set it to go horizontal, it requires that I go vertical. You don't want to see just me in the garden the whole time. Inga says, new cup. Yeah, so this is not a cup from Mary's Heirloom Seeds. I am part of a lady-owned Toyota group. They call it LOT, lady-owned Toyota. Oh, good. Good to hear. About my very first Toyota a couple years ago. Hey, Moonblade, and this has nothing to do with Mary's Heirloom Seeds. Hey, Colette. But in the lady-owned Toyota group, they have a weekly small business like shout out, like you can talk about your group or you talk about your company. And so this lady posted about how she makes these cups. I love teal and I love skulls and different types of stuff. I also have a flower one too, so in case you know skulls aren't your thing. I totally don't know what her name is. Hey, Agape Field, thanks Cheryl for joining me. So yes, Inga says, is that a new cup? And yes, butterflies, flowers, and skulls and spines. For those of you that don't know, I worked for a chiropractic office for off and on for about 14 years, so spines are also part of my background. So I'm live a couple minutes early today because YouTube was actually cooperating with me today. Yes, it is very pretty, and it was made by a fellow small business owner who also owns a 4Runner like I do, so kind of bonding in that way. And it's a 40-ounce cup because it's freaking hot out here. It is really warm. Hey, Monica, you made it. Hey, Pam, thanks for joining me. So if you haven't already, hit the thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. So I came live a couple minutes early. I'm a little hoarse. It's been a really long week. Doc has been struggling to sleep, which means I have been struggling to sleep. So it's been a little tougher of a week for us. But Monica says 101 in Florida. Yeah. It was 94 when I looked. 100 something plus feels like. But it's okay. My gardens are thriving. You can't really see it here. But on Monday, I went live on YouTube to talk about the Patty Pan Squash Challenge. I planted 7 Patty Pan squash seeds in this bed. 6 have already germinated. Let's see, that was on the 4th. Today is the 10th. They germinated on the 8th. 4 days, not bad at all. And 6 out of 7, and we're still only 4 days. They could take up to 10 days to germinate, so I may actually have 7 out of 7 germinate, which is pretty spectacular. So Inga says we're getting so much rain, your squashes are blowing up. Oh, I wish I had rain. It's been really kind of sad here lately. So the topic today is crop rotation, and I wanted to address this first. Actually, before I get into that, hit the thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Hey Christian, thanks for joining us, and hey Joan. In the description section of this video, you'll find a link to my comprehensive planting guide. You'll also find a link to my July seed sale, as well as, I think, the 12 seeds to plant right now in July. Now, before I go into what is crop rotation, I want to preface this by saying that crop rotation is not a requirement. Hey, Allison, thanks for joining. It can be I don't want you to look at this and go, this is way too frustrating. I'm just not going to do it at all. Or like with some people, they make gardening or growing from seed so complicated that some people just walk away and go, I'm done. I don't want to do this. Because the gurus say you've got to do this and buy this and fancy stuff and whatever else. And I'm very much a low-key, low-cost, DIY, mostly feral gardener. And I'm actually not wearing my mostly feral gardener shirt today. I was wearing it the other day. But I like to make things simple. I keep things simple in my garden. So even though I'm going to be talking about crop rotation right now on a larger scale as well as a smaller scale, I want you to know that it's not required. Because maybe you only have one garden bed. It's totally fine for you to plant tomatoes in that same garden bed every year. And you shouldn't let anybody tell you that you can't do that or you shouldn't do that, because you can and you should. So you shouldn't be necessarily going, I can't grow tomatoes because I planted them last year. So I'll talk about that too. Christian says, why are my radishes, they're skinny like baby straws? So the radishes are like the canary in the coal mine. If your radishes are, hey Jeffrey, if your radishes are too skinny, it's possible that you have a calcium deficiency in your soil. It's also possible that they're overcrowded, meaning that they were planted too close together. So what I would recommend, I did talk about this kind of recently, actually, like 2 weeks ago. You might try the mountain flower calcium and magnesium supplementation. A lot of times people will plant radishes, and if they do have spindly radishes and they were not overplanted, if you add calcium to your garden in the form of a powder in a liquid form, and when I say that, you're like, powder, liquid form, come on, Mary. They're only one or the other. You want to add the calcium and magnesium powder to water and then water your garden with it. Bone meal is a possibility, but it will take time for that to break down in your garden. So if you're needing a calcium supplement right away, that is an option for you. Sorry, I'm out here and it's wild. Hey Jeffrey, thanks for joining me. Hey Michelle, thanks for joining me, and Caitlin as well. So tonight's topic is crop rotation. Now, what is crop rotation is the first thing. Colette says, my dad was raised on a farm and your garden was, hang on, family garden was never rotated. Do melons get blossom end rot like other vegetables? Your melons are rotting on the vine. So it's possible, if it's a tiny melon and it's rotting on the vine, it's possible that it is just improper pollination. But if it is producing and it's rotting on the vine, then yes, it could be blossom end rot as well. Yes, they actually can get blossom end rot, but it also could be worms. So check it out. Not worms, but a bug, a pest. Hey, Amy, thanks for joining me. So let me talk about this. Crop rotation is the practice of planting different crops after one and another. Sean says, how can you rotate crops? That's what we're talking about right now. So stay tuned and keep listening. The reason you rotate your crops is for soil health, for pests and diseases, to optimize the nutrients in your soil, and also not just for pests, but weeds. So by rotating your crops constantly in a larger space, you can A, reduce your pest, B, keep your soil healthy, and C, reduce your need for additional fertilizers or soil amendments. Hey JW, thanks for joining us. But it can be done on a larger scale. It can be done on a smaller scale. So on a larger scale, for example, if a farmer plants a very large crop of corn, once the corn is harvested, you can plant beans, because beans will actually pull in the nitrogen from the air and bring it down into the soil, into the roots. You can till that under, you can compost it, however you want to do that, to add more nutrients to your soil. Cowpeas are one thing that people use to boost their soil health after a heavy duty crop, because corn is very nutrient intense. It requires a lot of nutrients. If you don't feed your corn, it may not produce as healthy. So by planting beans or cowpeas, you can add nitrogen back into your soil naturally. However, it is also possible to practice crop rotation on a smaller scale. So if you think about it, you can think about it as 4 raised beds. It doesn't have to be 4 raised beds. It can be 4 regions of your garden. If you split it up into 4, or fava beans are an excellent option for that as well. A lot of people purchase fava beans from us, and not necessarily to eat them, but to help with soil health. Hey Tammy, thanks for joining me. So by utilizing a 4-bed system or a 4-part system, you can actually rotate your garden fairly simply. Now, here's what I did. Monica, excellent. Cowpeas, yep. Purple whole peas are also a cowpea, so those are great suggestions. So I actually had to take notes because I keep it very simple. But this might be a great way for you to practice crop rotation on a simple scale. I actually went to the Old Farmer's Almanac, which is where I go for my frost dates and some great organic gardening information. And they had a great wait for the tractor to go by. They had a great 4-bed system that I actually wrote down, typed it in so it would be really simple. But the Old Farmer's Almanac had some great suggestions. The principle is straightforward, they said. The same vegetable should not be planted in the same place year after year. That's very simple. Now, if you only have 1 raised bed, that may not be work for you. That's totally fine. You don't have to rotate your crops, but it is possibly beneficial on a larger scale for several reasons. It lessens the need for pest control. You reduce the spread of diseases lurking in your soil, which is really important. If you have diseased plants, say squash, say you had powdery mildew on your squash, by rotating to something that is less, it has less potential for powdery mildew, say for example okra, you had one disease in one, and then you plant something else that is less susceptible to that disease. That's crop rotation. It can be that simple, just not planting the same thing. Now, if you have asparagus planted in your bed, you can't rotate your crops if you're planting asparagus, because it takes 3 years to establish from seed, and then that same plant can grow for 30 years. So we're not talking about perennials for the most part. We're talking about annuals when we're talking about crop rotation. And if you haven't already, please hit the thumbs up and subscribe to my channel, because we've got a lot of great information. I shared today about how I wanted to add 20 more school gardens to my school garden donation program. I think about 50 people reached out, and I haven't even gotten halfway through the donations, and we already sent out over 800 seed packs to school gardens and community gardens and veterans gardens. So I just wanted to take a moment out and share that great and amazing and awesome news with you, because I'm just super excited. Tammy says, if it is a raised bed, I guess you can try enriching the soils. Absolutely. Every one of my raised beds gets 2 things: mountain flower root boost and azomite. Those are 2 super important nutrients that I add to my soil if it's necessary. I also talked about having your soil tested. In my video that was not a live video about improving soil health, I talked about the ways that you can do it naturally and organically without purchasing stuff, but those are 2 things that I use in my gardens. All right, so combined with other organic methods, rotating your crops is an excellent defense against different kinds of pests and diseases. Now here are the 4 beds. See this? I did notes. Tomato, basil, pepper, pumpkin. So that would be 1 region or 1 bed. Tomato, basil, pepper, pumpkin. Now you can add other companion plants to these. It doesn't specifically have to be just these. You could add like a marigold or something like that, a calendula, but these are the basics. I'm trying to keep it simple. So this is all about crop rotation. And again, like I said, you don't have to rotate your crops. You can amend your soil. That's not a problem. And if you have a larger area, it can be easier to rotate things like this. But if you've got 4 raised beds, this might be something that you might want to try. The second is bush beans, cucumber, winter squash, lettuce. And then the next one is carrot, onion, broccoli, Swiss chard. So these are groups of plants and you're rotating to the next space. So that would be like 4 seasons or even less depending, because again, some of these might be winter crops as well. And the next one is pea, leek, beet, summer squash, eggplant, radish. So those are 4 sets for you. And those are really simple. Maybe I'll actually find the image that the Old Farmer's Almanac has, and I'll share that with you guys as well. So one thing to keep in mind is your plant's appetites. So heavy feeders are things like corn, like I mentioned earlier, tomatoes, squash, pumpkins, also winter squash, eggplant, sometimes cucumber, but not really. So those are your more high, eggplant, I think I already mentioned that, are more heavy feeders. So you want to kind of rotate those and say, have your beans first and then your tomatoes after, or your beans and then your peppers. So those are some super important things that you can keep in mind. Beans will add nitrogen to your soil. If you have a heavy nitrogen crop like corn, plant beans first and then corn and then beans afterwards. So that's still rotating your crops. Christian says, how nice you ever grow flowers next to veggies. Absolutely. I interplant flowers with all of my vegetable beds. So this one you can't really see it because I just reseeded. But I've got, what do I even have in here? Malabar spinach, Tabasco pepper. You've got kale, which is almost done for, or it's hanging in there because it's semi-shaded. And I just pulled out some varieties that had already been spent. I had zinnias and I had squash in here. So I pulled those out and then I planted more squash. So again, I'm not specifically following the rules as far as crop rotation goes. I planted more squash in the same area that I had squash, but I also had beans interplanted with my squash. So I want to say I had caserta zucchini and bush beans in here. And then when I harvested everything out and I pulled it out, the caserta zucchini had been a little buggy, but the beans had added some nitrogen to my soil. So then when I replanted more squash seeds, they're still going to have some extra nitrogen from those beans, which is a plus. So I'm still doing a little bit of crop rotation in this one, but not a lot. Hey, Krista. I'll tell you about the bed on the other side. On the far other side that is still in the sun right now, which is why I'm in this shaded area and not way over there. I just pulled up the last of my garlic. It was a kind of a weedy bed, so it took me a lot longer than just harvesting garlic. And I will say this, for those of you that are interested in garlic, we just announced seed garlic availability at Mary's Heirloom Seeds, so definitely check that out. It may only be available through the end of July because we generally sell out in the first month. And then come October, I probably have a couple of pounds left over, but not a lot. Certainly not enough for the over 50,000 customers we have. So definitely don't wait till the last minute to get your garlic, because if you don't get it now, you may get it later, but you may not. Sorry, I'm a little parched and my throat is, I'm almost out of voice today. So in that garlic bed, because I didn't have any diseases in my garlic, which is a plus, I'm going to, again, practice crop rotation, and I'm going to plant something. First, I'm going to add some Mountain Flower Root Boost. I'm going to add some azomite, and then I'm going to plant okra and more bush beans. So, and you know what else I'm going to do is summer squash. So that bed over there, one, because I want to add more nutrients to the soil, so I'm going to put more bush beans in there. And it's hot, so I'm going to plant a heat-tolerant bean, like the jade bush bean. And then, of course, for our patty pan squash challenge, I'm going to plant some more white scallop squash. And I'm also going to do a couple of experiments on natural and organic ways to deter pests, and I'll talk about that in a later video. Would the Italian bush beans help my okra? My okra is struggling, probably our rain. So generally speaking, the bush beans don't help your current crop. It's going to help your future crop. So the way it works is the beans will pull nitrogen from the air and release them into your roots, but it's going to be available for your next crop. So if you plant bush beans and it adds the nitrogen to your soil, then you plant a heavy producer or a heavy feeder after that, and that's where it helps. Hey, Jennifer, and hey, Stephanie. Krista says you got your garlic ordered. Yay, that's awesome. I'm so glad you got your garlic ordered. So now that I have pulled that garlic, I'm definitely going to go ahead and put more in there. Inga says, do you also add more worm tea, or do you only do this to establish beds? No, worm tea is fantastic. Worm tea can be added to just about every, no, not just. It can be added to every single garden bed. Worm tea is a good all-around nutrient. It's a great nutritional feed for your garden, and it won't burn your plants. Sorry, bugs. It won't burn your plants like a high content fertilizer will, like a 10-10-10 or a 20-20-20. I don't use any of that stuff in my garden because oftentimes they are synthetic fertilizers, and I like to use more natural fertilizers. So worm castings, worm tea that you can make or buy are fantastic options for your garden. I like to use Mountain Flower Root Boost and Azomite because that's what I like. But you can pretty much use anything you want to, and it should work. One thing you want to do is not add too much nitrogen to your garden. And I've talked about that with troubleshooting issues with your garden. If you add too much nitrogen to your garden or to your soil, you have a large, beautiful plant and not enough flowers and not enough fruits because your plant is spending too much effort producing greens and not actual fruits. Tammy says, I just read about a local gal doing projects with her daycare. They grew flowers from seed and sold bouquets. That is very cool. I love to hear that. Our school garden donation program is free. We don't charge anything for it, but we send out seeds to my last number, and I've repeated this a million times, and I should probably update my list with more people, is currently over 150 organizations within the U.S. Sometimes it's not necessarily every year we get to donate to 150 different organizations. I know I sent out a massive box to the Alameda Seed Library, and those were people that were affected by the major fires they had in Southern California. I know that I added, hey Tracy, I know that I sent to one who is Hope Gardens, and I think she said that goes to 21 or something different gardens. So it's not just schools that we work with. It's all over the place. So I love what I do. I love that we have a school garden donation program. And by the way, for those of you that have purchased seeds from me, thank you. Your donations are what help me donate to school gardens because we don't take donations for our school garden donation program. 100% of our donations are funded by sales from Mary's Heirloom Seeds. So thank you as well for helping me help more people. So I think that is it for my crop rotation conversation. Oh, I did want to tell you what I've done just really briefly. In the very beginning of the video, I told you that to keep it simple. And so don't let the charts and all of the things like this one won't go with this one. Don't let that make you feel uncomfortable with just trying something new or just getting overwhelmed and not doing it all. Colette, I donated to the Grow This West Virginia as well. That was so much fun. I forget how many hundreds of seed packs that we donated, but I want to say it was about 150 sets, so about 450 seed packs, which was super fun. So you've got, let me see. I pulled out my garlic and I'm planting okra, summer squash, and beans. I pulled out my beans and I planted summer squash and melons. I pulled out my onions and I transplanted peppers, pumpkins, nasturtium, and basil. Super simple. And it was not just something that I had to put a lot of thought into necessarily. It was really just crop rotation can be as simple as I planted beans here last time, I need to plant something else. Or it could be I planted tomatoes here and now it's fall, so I'm going to plant fall crops, which are not as necessarily as a heavy feeder as a tomato is. So I planted tomatoes here, and now I'm going to plant beets or radishes or turnips. So it can be just as simple as I had a summer crop of tomatoes, and now I'm going to plant my winter crop. And if you see something like the spindly radish, and like I mentioned, that can be, Joan says, love your earrings. Yes, they're from the glass cherry. Thank you. It can just be as simple as knowing what you planted there last year and doing something different next year. And if you have the space, great. If you don't, not a problem. Amend and work through it. So I did mention in my video last year, what should I plant after okra? For example, if you had issues with root knot nematodes, plant something like okra that is less susceptible to root knot nematodes. And it's that simple. Crop rotation can be that simple in a small scale or even a large scale. All right, everybody. So in the description section of this video, you'll find a link to my comprehensive planting guide. You'll also find a link to my July seed sale, as well as my most recent article I posted, and that was 12 seeds you can plant right now in July. I try to go live on Facebook every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Central Time, and I try to go live here on YouTube every Thursday. The heat is getting to me. I'm getting a little tired. I try to go live on YouTube every Thursday at 5 p.m. Central Time. So I am Mary from Mary's Heirloom Seeds. If you have any questions, send me an email. My email is mary@marysheirloomseeds.com, and I do answer your questions, but I do ask that you give me a couple hours or days to get back to you because it can be crazy. So I am Mary from Mary's Heirloom Seeds, signing off, and happy planting.